Hi, this is Andy Young, and welcome to another edition of Math Solutions Online. Suppose we've been asked to solve the equation x times 3x plus 10 is equal to 77 by factoring. The first step in solving this is, of course, to rewrite the equation. Next, we should distribute this x, multiplying it by the 3x and the 310, and the 10. That gives us 3x squared plus 10x is equal to 77. Subtracting 77 from both sides of the equation gives a quadratic in standard form. So we have 3x squared plus 10x minus 77 equals 0. This is the famous quadratic equation, which was known by the ancient Babylonians 4,000 years ago, and this form right here is the form developed by the French philosopher René Descartes in 1637. So, how do I identify the factors in factoring? Well, we identify the factors involved in factoring out this quadratic by looking at the factors of the first and the last coefficients. The first coefficient, 3, has the factors 1 and 3, because 1 times 3 makes 3, and 3 times 1 makes 3. We also want to look at the factors of 77. And here we see that the factors are 1, 7, and 11. So we're using the goal here is to use the FOIL principle in reverse to discover the multiplication of the two inner factors added to the multiplication of the two outer factors. And careful observation of these factors reveals that 7 times 3 gives us 21. And of course, 11 times 1 gives us 11. And we can combine, add, or subtract in some way those two numbers to create the middle coefficient of 10. Right? We're trying to create this 10 here. And of course, 21 minus 11 equals 10. So that's what we're looking for. But where and with what sign should we place these coefficients in the factored parentheses? Setting up our factoring of these parentheses first gives room for your mind to see where the numbers should properly go. So let's set up those parentheses first. In order to get a 3x squared with this combination of numbers, well, we know that 3x times 1x gives us 3x squared. And also, when you look at these values and you play around with it for a minute, it won't take you long to realize that an 11 of that factor here and the 7 of 77 here, when multiplied together, give us 77. And it turns out that if we make a negative sign there and a positive sign in front of the 7, well, then we can see that this is FOIL. The first numbers gives us that 3x squared. The outer numbers plus the inner numbers give us the 21, positive 21, and the minus 11. So 21 minus 11 will give us that 10. And then finally, so this is the inner, and this is the outer. And finally, dealing with the last two numbers, negative 11 times 7 is the outer factors, and that gives us negative 77. Finding this right combination can be as frustrating as forgetting the combination to your school locker because you know you've got the right numbers, but still can't seem to unlock it. Don't give up on trying. At least you aren't locked out after several failed attempts, like I do with my YouTube password. If all else fails, you can use the fail-proof method of completing the square. So now we have two parentheses with stuff inside of them, which when multiplied together gives 0. So we have stuff here inside of the parentheses, multiplied stuff here inside of the parentheses. That's some number a times some number b is equal to 0. And we know that at least one of these two values, the a or the b, must be 0 in order for this multiplication problem to be true. So this is why the next step, we set up two columns to find the two solutions to the original equation and answer the question. So when we take this left-hand set of parentheses and set it equal to 0, we have 3x minus 11 equals 0. Adding 11 to both sides of the equation gives us 3x equals 11. And finally, dividing both sides by 3 gives us x equals 11/3. Now, when we take this x plus 7 and set it equal to 0, of course, we just have to subtract 7 from both sides of this equation, giving us x equals negative 7. And as always, remember to box your answers so that your teacher knows exactly what you were trying to do.